Hi, Peter here. This is the third video on debugging. This is a variation of the debugging problem from the MIT MOOC on Python. It's a little contrived because we should have really tested the isPalindrome function first. However, it does show up some issues not covered in the previous examples. The idea is that we ask the user to enter characters one at a time, generate a list, and then test if we have a palindrome by seeing if the list is identical to the reverse of the list. So let's give it a go. So we've loaded it into the interpreter, and we're going to go call silly. So we're going to enter an element. So let's just put in something which is a palindrome. So we're going to type in A, and we're going to type in B, and then we're going to type in A, and then we're going to type an empty string to say that we've finished. Okay, we've got a problem here. So we look at the last line, name error, global name isPalindrome is not defined. And we look at the line before and it says if isPalindrome result. So we got isPalindrome result. But I did have palindrome defined. Oh, I see, I changed my mind. I changed the way I was going to write it. So the problem is I was using a particular style and I changed my mind and used a different style. So that was a simple problem to find. Just a simple name change that caused a variable, which is the name of the function, to be no longer present. So let's save that and load it. And let's call our silly thing again, function. A, B, A, enter elements. Yes. Okay, so you see what happens. It did the isPalindrome test and ABA is a palindrome and returned yes. Excellent. So far so good. Okay, let's try something which is not a palindrome. Let's try A, B, C. Oh dear. It claims it is a palindrome. So something has gone wrong. Now, the problem with this, as I mentioned in the first video, is the problem in silly or is it in isPalindrome? And because we've gone and written these two bits of code before we did any testing, we don't really know. So what we can do is saying, well, okay, let's put a print statement in here after the loop, and we'll print result. Now, that while loop should have produced a list of all the elements. So when we exit the while loop, if that result is what we expect, then it's probably a problem with isPalindrome. So let's save that and run that. Okay. Let's try the same one again. A, B, C. Oh, it's an empty list. We should have got the lists containing A and B and C, but we've got the empty list. Well, what's going on here? Well, let's have a look. At the end, we're printing out an empty list, but here we're doing an append. So something funny is going on here. And if we looked back through the code, we went, result equals empty list, and that's inside the loop. So every time we enter the loop, we set result to be empty, and then as long as it's not the empty string, the element, we append it to the result. And the problem is every time we go around the loop, we're resetting empty to be result to be empty. So what we really meant to say is to put the result in the beginning. So we really wanted to say result equals empty before we started the loop. And then hopefully the result will get will accumulate the elements into result. And then hopefully now when we print the result, we should see all the elements there. So let's try that and see what happens. Let's try A, B, C, nothing. Okay, so now we're looking like we're making progress. We're still getting the wrong answer. We should be getting no instead of yes, but at least we've got the list ABC. So what that means is we're now correctly got the right list, and we're passing the correct list into the isPalindrome function. So clearly the problem is now in the isPalindrome function. So let's go up and look at the isPalindrome function. Well, this is amazingly simple. So where can it go wrong? Okay, well, what we hope is that temp and reverse and x will be opposite. So let's just see if that's really happened. So let's print x and temp. So that seems like a reasonable thing to do. So now we should get the list printed out just to confirm that everything's okay there. And now what we hope is that we'll print x and it should be the same as what we printed as result, and then temp should be the reverse of that list. So let's try that and see what happens. Save that, load that. Now, same problem again. Okay, so here we've got ABC, so our x is ABC. Oh, but temp is ABC as well. So we thought we reversed temp, but it's still the same. So what's gone wrong? Well, here we've got temp.reverse. Oh, I see. We haven't actually called the method. We've actually just used it. So what actually happens is here is this temp.reverse evaluates to the reverse method, but that's all it does. What we really wanted to do is recall the reverse method, and so we need to put the open and close brackets there. So let's try that and see if that works. Save that, load that, try silly, and we'll try again. A, B, C, nothing. Okay. Oh, well, good. Temp is reversed, but still getting yes. Oh, but what's going on here? Hang on, something funny's going on here. We started with ABC, we passed ABC into it, and we got a temp variable, and we reversed temp, but somehow or other, we've got the reverse of the first list as well. So not only is temp reversed, but x is reversed. This is the problem. And this is the problem because we're not, when we take temp equals x, we're not taking a copy of x, we're just making temp and x really have the same value, which is a list. And when we reverse that list, we're reversing the list, and temp and x are both pointing, if you like, at that list, and so they will both see the reverse list, which is indeed consistent with printing x and temp. So we don't want that to happen. We don't want temp to be just the same as x. We want temp to be a copy of x, and we only want temp to be reversed, not x as well. So we really need to take a copy. Now there's two ways to take a copy, and one way to take a copy is just to take a slice, which slices the entire list, and the other way to do it is to take, I'll just put in as a comment, list of x. We'll also do the same kind of conversion. This will take a copy of x, and this will take a copy of x. So let's see what happens now when we do that. So we'll save that and load that, and now we'll try silly again, and A, B, C, nothing. Okay, now we're happy. Okay, we've got the correct answer. ABC has come into the isPalindrome function correctly. X has the value ABC, and temp has the value CBA. But notice, of course, because we've taken a copy now, we've stopped the x being reversed as well as the temp. So this is exactly what we wanted. We wanted temp to be the opposite of x. Okay, so that seems to work. Okay, again, we shouldn't stop there. We should go back and check something that is a palindrome, because maybe in fixing this bug, we've introduced another bug. So here we go. Let's try the one we tried before, maybe A. That says yes. You'll notice again that in this case, there's the x, and the reverse of that is also ABA, and because the reverse is equal to the original list, that's a palindrome. Again, we should check extreme cases. Like in the previous example, I suggested testing for the empty list, and here the equivalent would be if we didn't give anything at all. And okay, so we've got no elements, and the list with no elements is the same as the reverse of the list of no elements, so that is indeed a palindrome. So what about something with just one element in it? Let's just put an A in, and again, that looks fine. So it looks like we fixed this particular problem. So we had a few different kinds of problems there, which is quite unusual. So one was that I didn't, when I changed my name, when I decided I needed a slightly different name, I forgot to change the name in the definition, and so it was complaining that I didn't have a definition for is palindrome. The second problem was that I had the initialization of result inside the while loop, which I didn't mean to. And the third problem was first of all, I wasn't actually calling reverse, but secondly, I was sharing the same list between X and temp, and I really meant to take a copy. And these two prints, this print here of result after the while loop, made me realize that something had gone wrong in the while loop. And this print of X and temp showed up a couple of problems. And so this use of print essentially in interesting places in our program has shown several of the bugs. Now, there may have been more bugs in this program, and I might have had to add more print statements in different places to track down other bugs, but this seems to have solved this particular problem. Okay, that's enough for this particular video.